Is the Sony A7 IV still the perfect hybrid camera, or has it been left behind in this day and age? Well, my name is Arnoldur. I know that name is a little bit brutal. I come from Iceland, so feel free to call me Ari, and I've been photographing for almost a decade and done it professionally for years. I've also been reviewing cameras professionally for many years, and specifically Sony cameras. And when it comes to the A7 IV, I got it almost immediately as it came out, and it's actually been my main camera for both photos and videos since then. And the reason I'm telling you this is because I know this camera inside out. And in this video, I want to share with you guys everything that I've really liked about it, plus the two things that have driven me crazy with it and I do not like at all. On top of that, we're gonna try to answer the question if this camera is still worth your money, or if you should maybe wait for the Sony A7 IV. All right, my friends, so let's start with the specs and a little bit about the build quality and what I've liked there. And later on, we will dive into the things that I haven't liked. But spec-wise, this camera is equipped with a 33 megapixel back illuminated full frame sensor. I really have no complaints about it there. And the dynamic range on it, I think, is pretty decent as well. It also has an ISO range of 100 to 51,200, which is expandable to 50 to 204,800, if I'm remembering correctly. And then on top of that, for those of you who like to do sport photography or maybe like wildlife or anywhere where you want a lot of burst, then it can do 10 frames per second in burst mode, which is, I mean, still pretty decent. It's maybe not like A1 or A9 Mark III type of insanity, but I mean, it gets the job done and it's not that bad. Now, when it comes to video, then it does film 4K, which is oversampled 7K footage. So the 4K that you're getting is actually really good and very crisp and detailed. And that's like one of the big reasons, although I have like here, this video that you're looking at is filmed on the ZV-E1, which is technically just like a Sony A7S Mark III, fantastic film camera, and it is better in filming, but for still, when it's just sitting on a tripod and we're doing talking head, and I do prefer this one because the quality you're getting is oversampled 7K. So it's really nice. I like that a lot. Now that, you can film up to 30 frames per second. However, it does offer you 60 frames per second in 4K, but then it's in super 30 mode, so it's crop. And then if you want like super slow motion, I mean, who does it like very... That was a lame joke, a dad joke, you know. I'm a dad. It's a dad joke. But if you want that, then you can get 120 frames per second in full HD. What's worth noting too, which I thought was really nice when I bought this camera, is that the footage is 10-bit. So it makes the color space bigger and you can color grade the footage much more simpler and easily. Another cool thing too is that, of course, you can film in S-Log3 or S-Cinetone. I always film in S-Log3. This right now is filmed in S-Log3, which means that there is a flat picture profile and then I color grade it. Personally, I use my own LUTs. I have correction LUTs, easy to slap on, corrects the footage from being, you know, flat, just regular Rec 709 look, and then I have multiple different creative LUTs as well to get some specific look. If you are interested, you can find it in the description down below. This is what I use. If you like the colors, then like, hey, maybe support your fellow YouTuber, your local YouTuber. Now, it is also equipped with active steady shot, and it does have IBIS, so you are able to get like quite stable handheld footage with it. And then one thing that I've liked too is that you get two, should I say, not only one, but two SD card slots here. And one of them being a CF Express card. Those are incredibly expensive, like way too expensive, but they're really, really fast and have an like insane fast readout. So you can do that here if you're going for something like that. And then lastly, I mean, this probably goes without saying, but if you're coming from the old school APS-C world, maybe Sony a6400 and such, then of course the full frame cameras are equipped with the big Sony batteries. These are so much better than the small ones. I don't even think they make the APS-C camera with the small ones anymore because they kind of suck. You have to have so many of them. But this one, very nice, which makes the grip pretty good. Now, the grip is a little bit boxy if you are coming from maybe Canon or something which is like round. I like it, but I know that on newer models they're making more streamlined like ergonomics, but I think it feels a little good. I don't know if I have the biggest hands in the world, but I'm not small, you know. So there's somewhere there in the middle, and I can grip it nice, and I like where everything is. The scroll buttons here, you know, just you have a bunch of different buttons to bind your C1 here. C1 is here, C2, another here you can bind. and it just feels good holding it in general. The viewfinder, it's pretty decent. I've heard some people say like,
oh, if you've never tried the viewfinder from this company, then you're gonna think Sony sucks.
I don't know. Me, I've used Sonys for so long that I've gotten used to them. And in my opinion, I mean, I can see what I'm doing and I'm getting pretty good photos. So, at least in my opinion. So, I'm pretty happy. Now, that then brings us to the next part of the video, which we're trying to answer now the question if this camera still holds up in this day and age. Is it still worth it? Once we've covered that, then I'm going to tell you the things that I've really liked about it, what I've enjoyed with it for the last like 3 or 4 years that I've been hammering on it, and also the things that I did not like. But in my opinion, we can put a little drum roll here for the suspense. Always think about the suspense when we're creating video. The Sony A7IV, I personally think still holds up well in 2025 and beyond. I mean, come on, it's a fantastic camera. I mean, some of you are probably watching this and being like,
Oh my god, where have we gotten when content creators are making videos titled
Is a camera like the Sony A7IV still worth it or not?
I mean, of course, it's still a fantastic camera, but you might want to know the reasons why. And in my opinion, it's a versatile hybrid camera, which offers a strong 33 megapixel sensor. It has an advanced autofocus that I didn't touch on that before, but the autofocus in the camera is really good. It does not have the AI chip, so it's not as good as the newer models, which is like insane. Sony is so good with the autofocus that you really don't have to do anything. I think that's also why I'm decent at, photography and video creation, because I have Sony cameras. So I just point it anywhere and it's dust for me, kind of. So, I mean, it's pretty sick there. And the autofocus here, I'm not going to complain, but it is better. ZV-E1, which I'm filming here, it's definitely better, but it's still, you're not going to look at this camera and be like, what are you doing with the autofocus? You're going to be happy. On top of that, it also has excellent video capabilities. As we said, it can 4K, which is actually like downsampled or oversampled, you say, semi-K footage. And then you can film up to 60 frames per second in 4K, which is like Super 35. So it's cropped, quite a lot of crop there, but still 60 frames per second, not bad. Now, where the argument might fall apart if you think this is not worth it in this day and age, then I think that will come down to how, what features you're looking for and what exactly you're doing. I mean, this is going to be very individual for you. If you're a totally beginner on a journey and don't know what you're doing, then maybe you don't need an A9 Mark III or A1 Mark II or something like that. So you will kind of have to type down the specs and see what works for you. I mean, the newer models will have better autofocus. You will have fast readouts. You say that, you can take much more burst per second. You have AI chip in them, so you have these newer features that you can use, which is really cool. And of course, for video, you can get 4K above 60 frames per second, which is not cropped. Even the ZV-E1, which I'm filming on right now, can film 120 frames per second with minimum crop. Very, very, very nice. And that I like having that on a camera when I'm filming, because when I'm doing B-roll or whatever, it's nice being able to get that super slow motion because this looks so good. Plus, everything handheld, it kind of is, you get like a few seconds, which are really stable, even when you're moving around. So I enjoy having that, but this is the must. I can't answer that for you. I don't know what you're going to use this camera for, but so this is you have to think for yourself. I know it can be intimidating, but once you figure that out, then you can understand for yourself if this is, worth it or not. All right, so what have I then liked? So as I told you guys, this has been my main camera for both photos and videos for years. I like it a lot. I think it's excellent. The big part also why is because it's a fantastic hybrid camera. I am a photographer in my core, and I love landscape and street photography. However, my job is also mostly creating YouTube videos. So I need to film a lot. So I'm filming constantly. So having the capabilities to have a hybrid camera, which is great at both, is for me very, very valuable. So that's why I went with the A7IV when I bought it for the first place. Sure, I would like to have the A7R Mark V or something like that. It's an insane camera. I've tried it on a few occasions, but I don't want to carry with me two cameras. And even if I now own the ZV-E1 II, which is a great film camera, then, I just want to be able to do everything in camera here. And what this camera offers is you can switch between photo and video so fast with just like turning this little button right here. And then you also have memory recall, 3 modes, so 1, 2, and 3. So it can have 100 frames per second, 25 frames per second, 30 frames per second, whatever I want. Different profiles saved to the memory recall, so I can just switch between them. And this is also different for photo and video. So for photo, I have different settings on the memory recall and different on the video as well. So I can switch between the settings that I use really fast. I don't have to go into the menu or whatnot. I love it because I'm constantly in a running gun environment. I'm running around, taking photos, creating videos simultaneously. So that has been great for me. And I mean, the quality is good enough. I mean, I'm throwing up here a bunch of photos throughout this video and showing you some videos that I shot with it, and you can kind of judge by yourself. What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. this, is this is what we YouTubers do. Because we genuinely care what you guys think. And I mean, what more? The image quality and video quality, good. You have a bunch of different buttons to bind if you want that, which I've enjoyed. And then I do enjoy that you have 2 SD card slots. Now, I'm personally not like often in a situation like if I filmed a few weddings in my life that it can be stressful. So then I would definitely want to have 2 SD card slots because if it I mean, if the SD card fails on you, you've ruined their wedding, kind of. And that I wouldn't want to be in that situation. That's stressful. So for that situation, 2 cards is nice. So that is pretty good. But is this a perfect camera? Hell no. It's not perfect at all. I mean, at all. There are at least 2 things that I've never really liked about it. And the first thing is it has a pretty bad rolling shutter. So a rolling shutter basically is the way a camera sensor is capturing an image by scanning it line by line from top to the bottom instead of capturing all at once. And what this does is that it can cause fast-moving objects or quick pans to appear skewed or distorted because different parts of the image are captured at different times. You understand? So you get that wobbly effect that I don't know about you, but I don't like it at all. So if something is moving fast by, you will see like light poles or whatever, they get bent and not pretty. And I mean, it is what it is. And there are cameras out there that are like really good at has 0 rolling shutter, but this one is not one of them. And I've hated it. I don't like it at all. And that's where I think it's important to get to know your camera and its limits. So for me, if I'm in a shooting car and I want to capture the road, I cannot really do it because everything just becomes bent. Or when something is moving fast by, I cannot even do that. Or when I'm panning a little bit too fast, it doesn't have to be that fast. Then also the lines in the city become wobbly. This is how I feel about it. Don't like it. And then another thing, and I touched a little bit on it before, is that it can only film 60 frames per second. I mean, that's okay. You don't always have to have like 240 frames per second or 120 frames per second, but the 60 frames per second, it is cropped. I would have wished, and it's not like it's a little crop, it's a Super 35 crop, so it's technically an APS-C mode when you're using the 50 frames per second. And I would have wished that I could just not have that. Yeah, it would have made this camera so much better. And when I'm like, want to get some smooth B-roll, I simply use the ZV-E1 because I can film 120 frames per second, 4K, minimum crop. Love it. So that's something that I've also had thought like, okay, maybe not that much. It's just a little bit of an annoying thing that this one wasn't able to do that. This is some of kids on the summer and I'm putting, vegetables and everything. I'm like, eat this. And they go like, that's how I feel about the rolling shutter, All right, so now that we talked about all of this, then like the question becomes, should you buy it or should you maybe wait for a different camera, like maybe the Sony A7IV? And have I any knowledge about the camera? Now, in my opinion, if you should buy it or not, it definitely comes down to you. I think it's a sick camera. I mean, it's not the best out there anymore, but it's still plenty good for a lot of things if you're not looking for something specific. Now, when it comes to the A7IV, then I don't have any knowledge of it. I've been trying to ask Sony, but they've not sent me any NDA. And if I had written NDA, I would not be able to tell you anything because, I'm under a non-disclosure agreement. Anywho, with that being said, then my belief is that it will come out next year. It would make sense because this is getting a little bit old and it's in need of some upgrades. And then maybe it could be an opportunity to wait for 2 reasons. When that comes, you can get this one cheaper, both from the store and on the second-hand market. And also, it will have some upgrades that I think would be at least interesting to see. I personally think it would get an AI chip, and some of them, some of the features from the flagship models will be dripped down to this. But when it comes out, no idea. But what I can tell you is that in my opinion, this is still a pretty sick camera. This is definitely worth at least checking out. However, people seem to always think that newer, more expensive gear is always better. But when you're putting the footage side by side, can you, really see any big difference or any at all? I recently tested a $900 camera versus an almost $9,000 camera, and the result I think will surprise you. Click here to see for yourself.